Well, this is pretty much the only place I could do this video today. I'm actually at my in sister-in-law's house. Yes, that's correct. And we have the kids over here, and we're hanging out, having a dinner. That's pretty fun. The kids and I just played some ping pong on their ping pong table. Of course, that just makes sense, right? That's where you play ping pong. And of course, James being so small, he was physically on top of the ping pong table, diving for the ball. So anyway, it's been a pretty good weekend so far. Other than like I've been kind of having those ups and downs like usual. It just happens to me. It's just part of the deal. But it's been overall a very good weekend so far. We and Chris got together last night, and we hung out and watched the South Park episodes for Black Friday from last year. That was pretty hilarious. Watched an episode of Seinfeld. Plus, he got a new MacBook Pro, which I was pretty excited to see because pretty much none of us, like in our immediate group, actually have a Mac. Like I have an iPhone, which I'm recording on right now. He has an iPhone. I've had an Android phone, of course. I kind of like to switch almost every other generation. And we have tablets, the iPads, but for computers like PCs, I've always just kind of gone Windows, simply because as an IT guy, I kind of need that added flexibility that comes with being able to install so many different types of software for troubleshooting and diagnosis and all that. Apple doesn't really leave a lot. They've come a long way, but they don't really leave a lot in the realm of actual diversity of hardware and having to be very creative in the different ways you can approach hardware configurations and things like that. That's just part of their platform. But their hardware is because just for people who don't know this, the reason Apple hardware works so well, and this was kind of a revelation for me actually recently, the reason it works so well is because they lock down the hardware, right? So they just make sure that only specific hardware works with their software, or their software works with specific hardware configurations for the most part. And as a result, they can make sure they're getting the most out of that hardware. So that's why you can go to like an Apple store and see, well, the hardware looks like it's older, which in many cases it is. But the reason it still runs just as good or better for a lot of applications is because that older hardware is being utilized a lot more efficiently by the operating system. Try to imagine if you were a programmer and you had to write some way to handle graphics. Could you imagine having to do it for like 70 different types of graphics cards, or maybe 3 of the primary graphics drivers that are out there? But all those drivers have variations depending on the type of hardware they might be using. I mean, it's like you have to put a lot more work in to make sure you have it's being stable and running properly for all that different hardware out there. Well, Apple really doesn't have to worry about that because there's a very limited amount of hardware out there for the drivers that are being used. And so they can really kind of tap in and refine and polish those drivers better. And so you can get better performance out of the hardware. But of course you pay for that, right? Because the only way you can really deviate from Apple stuff is to like go away from Apple. And since they basically have the market for their hardware, then you have to pay whatever price they put it at, right? So it's like a catch-22. You don't get a lot of flexibility, you don't get a lot of variation, but you get a lot of stability and you get a lot of performance out of less hardware. You'd think that those savings would trickle down to us as the end user, but of course they don't. Because Apple, since they own the market, if you want to use their software, you have to buy their hardware. So technically you're buying older hardware, or slower, quote unquote, slower hardware for premium dollar prices. But in reality, the slower hardware runs better. So that's I don't know how this ended up being an Apple hardware rant, but it's one of those things. Everybody's in the world, right? Are you Mac or PC or a little bit of both? Because me and Chris, we're pretty much both. There's a very good reason to have each, depending on what it is that you're doing. That's always where I've landed with hardware. And like, if anybody from these asked me, hey, what should I get? My first question is going to be, what are you going to use it for? Because at the end of the day, there's so much great technology out there from Apple, Mac, PC, Dell, you name it. There's always something good for whatever it is you're doing. Hey, everybody, have a good day. I'm out of time.